that he is the guardian of those who believe. يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. He takes them out of the shades of darkness towards nur. In another ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the same role for the Prophet of Islam. And the Prophet himself says, Husayn minni wa ana min Husayn. And so this process of, taking us out of shades of darkness towards nur is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the Rasul, as well as Husayn ibn Ali. And that legacy of Husayn continues in the form of the ceremonies that we have, in form of Qaza of Sayyid al-Shuhada, especially in Mohram and Safar. And to keep in line with that theme, basically I've been talking about relating the seerah of the Ahl-e-Bait, especially Karbala, with issues which affect us in different ways. Last night we talked about the issue of halal sustenance, as well as the issue of the guidance in form of tawfiq and khizlan. And I used the two examples from Karbala, that Hur is the example of the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas Amr ibn Sa'd is the example of khizlan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason why I mention these two words is because you will see in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many places He says, Yahdi Allahu man yasha, Allah guides whomever He wants. وَيُضِلُّ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, or Quran guides or misguides. These words, guidance and misguidance, have to be understood properly. Allah never misguides anyone. The actual meaning is khizlan. After the guidance has been given initially, when a person again and again and again ignores it, Allah says, okay, I've done my part. Now you're on your own. So whenever the words misguide relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, it refers to this act of abandonment. That Allah will then abandon that person to be on his own. And when Allah's tawfiq is taken away, this is where shaitan comes to trap that individual. Salawat alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
To continue with the theme of wilayat and muhabbat and the love of the Ahl-e-Bait, tonight I would like to focus more on the issue of what are the implications, what are the expectations of this belief that we love the Ahl-e-Bait. And alhamdulillah, the audience is the audience of those who are followers of the Ahl-e-Bait. We love Ahl-e-Bait. People come to the Majlis because they love Husayn ibn Ali. Doesn't matter who is the speaker. It's not the speaker who brings the people. The people come because of their love for Husayn ibn Ali. And this is where we have to realize that, this is a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. And we have to maximize that, blessing. What does it mean to be a Shia of Ali? What does it mean to be the muhib of Ahl-e-Bait? Somebody who loves the Ahl-e-Bait. Because this is a very, noble title which we have taken for ourselves. And we really have to live up to it. And so that is this theme tonight. Let me connect with the discussion that we had last night, where I had mentioned that this concept of wila of the Ahl-e-Bait, in the meaning of love for the Ahl-e-Bait, is a universal teaching in Islam. The Shias, the Sufis, the Sunnis, the Wahhabis all believe that this is part of Zawriyat al-Deen. This is the essential belief of all Muslims. But the question comes up that if that is the case, then what is the difference between the Shias and the others? If the Sufis believe in the love of Ahl-e-Bait, the Sunnis believe that it's important to love the Ahl-e-Bait. Even the Wahhabis in their books actually, talk about this issue. There was a book written by a Saudi writer in the 90s in Saudi Arabia. And the title of the book itself was very interesting. It says, علموا أولادكم حب أهل البيت. Teach your children the love of Ahl-e-Bait. That is the title of the book, published in Jeddah. And within few months, the book, was sold out. Somebody brought for me a second edition of that. So even among the Wahhabis, the concept is there to love the Ahl-e-Bait. And so what is the difference between us and the others? This is where we have to, focus on it so that our aqidah becomes properly, founded on the concept that we really understand and follow it. Salawat alayhi. See, when we talk about the vilayat of Ahl-e-Bait, there are 4 dimensions of that. The first one is the vilayat of love. This is accepted by all, the Sunnis, the Sufis, the Shias. Then there is a second dimension of vilayat, which means the spiritual guidance, that they are our spiritual guide. In this, the Sunnis are not with us, but the Sufis are with us. So the Sufis and the Sunnis both agree in that second dimension. Third dimension of the vilayat is the political leadership, khilafat. And this is where we are alone. And the fourth one is the vilayat, which is known as vilayat al-takwini, which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the Ahl-e-Bait, the Prophet and his descendants, the Imams, universal authority over the entire world. To the extent that in words of Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi, he says, every atom of the universe is at the disposal of the wali. And when he used the word, every atom of the universe, then there's no limitation there. So they have that kind of vilayat. So this third and fourth vilayat is an exclusive aqidah of the Shias. Now, on a practical level, what is the difference between the Shias and others who believe in the first dimension of vilayat, which is the love of Ahl-e-Bait? You see, love is a phenomenon which is part of nature. Whenever you see something good, whenever you see a good quality in a person, you are naturally attracted towards it. And you would even start admiring the person. You might not follow that person, but you will admire that, he has this quality. And this is where we see that when others come and praise the Ahl-e-Bait, this is part of the human nature. When they look at the qualities of the Ahl-e-Bait, they, if they are not biased, they will recognize it, acknowledge that, and even come to admire the personalities of the Ahl-e-Bait. When you hear about the Hindu poets in India, for example, writing poetry in the Fadilat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the question comes up, he's not a Shia. But the point is not of being a Shia or a Sunni or a Hindu or a Christian. They are looking at Fadilat. When they see a virtue or a good quality in a person, they accept it. They might not believe in them, but they still recognize them. You have this Christian writer from Lebanon, because Lebanon, of course, is an Arab country and it has a sizable Christian population. Their language is Arabic. For them, even to learn their own language and culture, they need to study, Arabic, Quran, Nahyu Balagh, and other things. And so this is where you will see that some of these writers from Lebanon have written quite a lot about Amir al-Mu'mineen. One of the famous writers was also a poet, Khalil Gibran Khalil. He actually complains to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wrote a preface of a book of his friend about Amir al-Mu'mineen, and there he says that Allah, I have a complaint with you. If you wanted to create a human being like Ali, why did you send him 1400 years ago? Because the modern society needs Ali now. This is the admiration from somebody who is not even a Muslim. And this is where we come to realize when we talk about the wila or in the meaning of muhabbat of Ahl-e-Bait, this is a universal phenomenon. You know, we, the Sunnis, the Sufis, the Hindus, the Christians, whoever knows about Ahl-e-Bait, we are on the same page in there. And so my question is, what is the difference between us and them? If you are able to answer that, then you will know your true identity. You know, just recognizing their fadail is one thing. But on that level, you are on the same ground with others. So what is the preference that the Shia has? Shia, this is a noble status. Shia does not only mean somebody who recognizes the fadail of the Ahl-e-Bait. Shia is somebody who also follows Sahib al-Fadail. And that is why even the word Shia itself literally means, follower. When we have the funeral in Urdu or Farsi or Arabic, what do you say? Tashriya Janaza. The word Tashri and the word Shia comes from the same root. It means you're following the funeral, the coffin. So Shia means somebody who is not only acknowledging the fadail of the Ahl-e-Bait, he actually in his practical life tries to follow the teachings of the Ahl-e-Bait. And that is in essence the meaning of Shiaism, and that is the true dimension of the wilayat of Ahl-e-Bait. Salawat. Let me give you one example just to clarify. So we know our differences. And what is the blessing that we have? And how should we maximize the potential of that love that we have for the Ahl-e-Bait? Sufis are closest to us. And we appreciate that. But we have to understand what is the difference between a Sufi Sunni and a Shia. You see, the Sufis will say we love the Ahl-e-Bait. But when it comes to following them, I'm told to ask you to move forward.
Please, आगे बढ़ते रहिए, please. Thank you. बहुत मेहरबानी.
You see, a Sufi is somebody who loves the Ahl-e-Bait, accepts their fadail, but they do not follow them. In Aqidah, they follow Abu Hassan Ash'ari. They are Ash'ari Sunni. When it comes to their tafsir, they follow the opinion of the Sahaba. When it comes to hadith, they don't look at the hadith of the Ahl-e-Bait. They look at the hadith of the quoted by the Sahaba. For them, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are the main sources. When it comes to their fiqh, they follow one of the four A'immah of the Madahib of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, or Ahmad bin Hanbal. And so, on all these issues of theology, jurisprudence, tafsir, hadith, they don't follow the Ahl-e-Bait. Whereas the Shias are those who not only love the Ahl-e-Bait, in their aqidah comes from the Ahl-e-Bait. Their hadith comes from the Ahl-e-Bait. Their tafsir comes from the Ahl-e-Bait. Their fiqh is known as fiqh Ja'fari, comes from the Imams of the Ahl-e-Bait. And that is something we have to keep in mind. Sometimes if I get the opportunity, I always say to our Sufi, brothers, and a very brotherly complaint, I would say. And I'll give you an example of Canada, or you all from US. It's a Republican state, but Canada still has the monarchy. And I'm using the example of the Queen who just passed away recently. If you go to any government building or office in Canada, you will see it has a picture of the Queen. Now it's been replaced with her son. If you look at the bills and the coins, it has this image of the Queen on it. So the pictures are all over. We have celebrations for her birthday or whatever. You know, the bills has her picture there. The coin has the image of her face and head there. But what is the power? Absolutely nothing. Although the Queen there would sign that, okay, this fellow, he is now the Prime Minister, but he is actually elected by the people here in Canada. So I say to the Sufis, you know, this is what you have done with the Ahl-e-Bait. You have the pictures of Ahl-e-Bait in your home. You know, you have this poetry of the Ahl-e-Bait, but there is no impact in your daily life. You know, your aqidah comes from others, your tafsir comes from others, your fiqh comes from the others. So what is it? And this is where we need to realize this level of muhabbat has to be linked to the level of ita'at and obedience of the Ahl-e-Bait. Salawat. Because the essence of muhabbat and love is to try to please the beloved. You have to see what they expect from us. We are not infallible, but we have to try. And I'll give you the evidence for this, that, you know, love, a true love must follow the concept of obedience to the beloved. In Surah Al-Imran, ayat number 31, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِ يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. O Muhammad, say to your followers. Now the Prophet is saying to the Muslims, إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ, if you love Allah, فَاتَّبِعُونِ, then follow me. If you follow me, يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ, Allah will love you. See, there are two loves we are talking about in this ayah. One is the love of the human beings to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ. A human being loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is saying that the sign of loving Allah is that you follow the Prophet. فَاتَّبِعُونِ. If you follow the Prophet, then Allah will in return love you. The love for a human being towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the human being is actually linked to the ittiba' of Rasul, following Rasulullah. And when that happens, يَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ, Allah says, I'll forgive you your sins. Because Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. And this is where we have to realize that, you know, the link between a human being loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah loving that fellow is that ittiba' Rasul. And for us, by extension, ittiba' of the khulafa and the successors of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Historically, nobody has been given this certification that you love Allah and Allah loves you. The concept is there in the Quran. And I think each one of us claims that. I love Allah and inshallah Allah loves me. But if you want a certification, there is only one incident in history. In the battle of Khaybar, you know, when others went and came back unsuccessful, eventually Rasulullah declared that I'm going to give this the command غدا رجلا كرارا غير فرار. हम लोग दौड़ वहाँ तक है बस. That Rasulullah said that I will give the command to somebody who is a true man and who is steadfast. غير فرار, doesn't run away. Unfortunately, our audience doesn't know what Rasulullah said after that. We are not really being told about it in clear words. Rasulullah said, I'll give this standard and command to somebody who is a true man, who is steadfast, who doesn't run away. يُحِبُّ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. He loves Allah and His Messenger. وَيُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ. And Allah and His Messenger also loves him. This is the only certification given by Rasulullah about this love of a person to Allah and Rasul, and Allah and Rasul's love to that person in form of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. What is the benefit of this love of Ahl-e-Bait? Number one, our aqidah has become, our belief system becomes, correct when we follow them. We don't have the time here, but even if you look at the concept of Tawheed, there are some very subtle differences in our understanding of Tawheed and the rest of the Muslims. We don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, hands and other limbs. But the Wahhabis actually say you have to look at the ayat of Quran literally. Whereas we know Quran says there are ayat which are muhkamat and the ayat which are mutashabihat. Some are very clear, some are symbolic. And you have to understand the meaning in a symbolic sense. So they say no, you have to believe. If Quran says Yadullah, you have to believe that Allah is the hand, but you are not allowed to think about it or question it. Whereas our Imam say that when the issue of Yad comes in, it means symbol of power. And so, even Tawheed is different. So number one, our Aqidah becomes, perfect and correct by the love of Ahl-e-Bait. If we truly love the Ahl-e-Bait, it is an impact in our character because we try to follow them. And the most important thing about the love of Ahl-e-Bait is that our good deeds are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the muhabbat of Ahl-e-Bait. Doing good deeds is one thing. Whether it's going to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not is something else. And one of the essential conditions for acceptance of good deeds is the love and wila of Ahl-e-Bait. I'll give you one hadith from our Imam Mohhamad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Where the Imam says, أَمَّا لَوْ أَنَّ رَجُلًا قَامَ لَيْلَهُ وَصَامَ نَهَارَهُ. If a person, was doing the night vigil prayers every night and fasting every day, وَتَصَدَّقَ بِجَمِيعِ مَالِهِ, and he gives away his entire wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَحَجَّ جَمِيعَ دَحْرِهِ, and every year he goes for Hajj, وَلَمْ يَعْرِفْ وِلَايَةَ وَلِيِّ اللَّهِ فَيُوَالِيهِ وَيَكُونُ جَمِيعَ أَعْمَالِهِ بِدَلَالَتِهِ إِلَيْهِ. But if he does not know, does not believe in the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow him, مَا كَانَ لَهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ حَقٌّ فِي ثَوَابِهِ. He has no right on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for any reward. So all the namaz and all the roza, all the sadaqah and all the hajj and everything that you do, if you don't have the ma'rifat and you do not recognize the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not wajib on Allah to give you the sawab. And this is not only our point of view. I will give you an example here. Although now we live in the time of all electronic things, but there was a time we used to get the proper physical airline tickets. And it had this writing on it, printed, your name would be there, origin, destination, date of travel, time of traveling. But if you remember, even now, of course, in this electronic, tickets or documents that you have, there will be a place where it will say, your luggage.
Mm.
There was a time we had this privilege in North America of 2 pieces.
Yeah.
Now even that has been limited. That last column in that ticket was very important. We get a ticket free from Malakul Maut
Oh, oh, oh,
with our name on it.
oh.
Destination is fixed. The date is fixed. The time is fixed. We can't choose that. But the issue is that when you go in that journey of Akhirah, your luggage of good deeds, can you take it or not? That is the last column there. And it will say, if you have the villa and the love of Ahl-e-Bait, you can take your good deeds with you.
Subhanallah, subhanallah.
Otherwise, you will go and everything will be left here. And this hadith I mentioned to you from the Imam is just one sample from the series of hadiths, but one from the Sunni sources. Tabarani in his Al-Mu'jam, as well as Hakim Nishapuri in Al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain, has a narration from Abdullah ibn Abbas that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, فَلَوْ أَنَّ رَجُلًا صَفَّ بَيْنَ الرُّكْنِ وَالْمَقَامِ فَصَلَّى وَصَامَ ثُمَّ مَاتَ. The Prophet says that if somebody, did his amal between the rukn and maqam by the Kaaba, and then he did his namaz and he fasted also, and then he died in that state, وَهُوَ مُبْغِضٌ لِأَهْلِ بَيْتِ مُحَمَّدٍ. But he has hatred towards the Ahl-e-Bait of Muhammad, دَخَلَ النَّارِ. He will go into Jahannam. This is from the Sunni source. And so when we talk about the love for Ahl-e-Bait, one of the important benefits of that is that our good deeds actually acquire that power of flight with us to the Akhirah in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. मोहब्बत अहले बैत दर हकीकत जो है हमारे नेक अमाल को क़ुव्वत परवाज़ अता करती है, वरना इसके बगैर सब कुछ जो है यही रह जाए. सलावत. It might seem a very difficult concept that what do you mean? What about the good deeds of people? There's a whole issue there. Syed Mutahari has a very good way of explaining it. I'm summarizing that, where he says that we look at the good deeds from our own human limited perspective. Somebody does a good deed, we say he's a good person. We don't know what is the motivation behind it. Why did he do this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have any limitation. He knows the inner thoughts of the human being. That if this person is giving a donation, why is he giving? Is it with sincerity or for fame? If it is for fame, he will get the fame in the dunya. But in Akhirah, there will be nothing for him. So there is a jambayya fa'ili and jambayya fi'ili. Our perspective is limited to the actions of human beings. Whereas Allah looks at the actions through the perspective of the motivation of the human. And so there is no guarantee that if somebody does a good deed, it will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the conditions is the love and the ita'at of the Ahl-e-Bait. Salawat.